Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and something I think a little bit different. Certainly going to be fun for me. Hope it can be fun for you and provide a little tip or two in these times when we still use most of our entertainment time in our homes. We still have not started to venture out that much to the movie theater. I did go to the movies with my wife about a month ago and saw Nomadland, which I can highly recommend. But what we're going to do today is give you some tips from the archives of my review page, which hasn't had as much activity, obviously, during COVID times as I would like it to, but perhaps provide you with some entertainment options. There's probably a thing or two that you're familiar with, but I think I'm actually going to choose some things that you likely have not probably sampled and give you my thoughts on those, incorporated in the reviews that I did at the time. Well, not at the time in the classic films I'm going to do. So we're going to do a couple of relatively modern films from the last couple of years, and we're going to do some classic films, one of whom I'm sure you probably haven't seen, and one that maybe is far more likely that you have seen. But anyway, this should be fun for me. I know a lot of times people like to hear things more than they like to read things, so this will sort of be Siskel and Ebert style, except it's just me talking about some films coming up. I hope you'll enjoy it. I know I'll have some real fun revisiting it, and it will be part of today's, actually, it will be all of today's Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday presented by Cinematic Visions, as we give you some tips about things you might enjoy. It's just so easy to access them everywhere these days, between YouTube and streaming and, oh my God, perhaps even a DVD. Well, anyway, we'll start it up next, right here on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. The bitter cold snap in February was just another intense reminder of how important it is to have a quality heating and cooling company on your side. That's why you need to know about my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff Dillon and his top-quality staff provide honest, affordable, and reliable service all year long. Their number one priority is taking care of the customer and focus on being genuine, always following through and standing behind what they say and do. If you need HVAC or AC repair, it's important you get help from a team of professionals. Dillon's Heating and Cooling's team can walk you through a range of products, the advantages of heating and cooling systems, and ultimately help you find the best HVAC system for you. They're always glad to answer your questions and set up an appointment for an installation consultation. Whether you're looking to upgrade to a newer model of your current system or need one installed in a new home, give my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling a call today at 913-214-0529. That's 913-214-0529, or visit dillonsheatingandcooling.com to answer all of your questions. Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Their slogan is their goal, always treating you like family. It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here, upwards of 2 years. My back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today. I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back, and we're going to start off with a couple of films from the last couple of years, and certainly these are very acclaimed films, but more sort of in the art house type of film category, so maybe you haven't seen them, but I'm sure you can find them if perhaps these reviews give you something to pique your interest. I'm going to start it off with Parasite, which won the Academy Award last year and became the first foreign language film to win the Best Picture nomination. And I was really blown away by this film, and this is how I reflected on it after I watched it on a weekday afternoon. Wow! As the lights went up on Monday after the conclusion of director Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, I audibly did say wow. I had attended a late afternoon screening, attended by just a couple of dozen others. As I walked outside, I looked around to catch the glances of those around me. We all gave each other the same look, that we had been gobsmacked by an exceptional, emotional, gripping film that worked in just about every area of cinema that you could experience. A couple of things to begin. I am sensitive to the fact that the average moviegoer might have reservations about seeing a foreign language film with subtitles. I do have a dose of that myself, but one of the myriad wonderful things about this movie was that by about a third of the way in, I realized that I had completely forgotten that I was even reading the subtitles. It seems, and I hope, that becoming the first foreign language film to win the Best Picture Oscar has attracted more reticent moviegoers to the film upon its release, and this review of a movie that came out back in October is also an attempt to do just that. Of course, that was October of 2019, and I think the fact that we did have COVID probably hurt the aspect of this movie getting more attention subsequent to its winning the Academy Award. Back to the review, and it's going to be pretty light on plot description after the initial setup. If you have seen the praise for the film but don't know much about the story, you'll be that much better for the experience. I knew a bit about the basic plot line, but not much, and that surely added to the enjoyment. Go in as blind as you can. The initial premise is that of a very poor family of four, which lives in a basement apartment in a very bad Seoul, South Korea neighborhood, trying to scrape out a meager existence with odd jobs like folding pizza boxes. Fortune begins to shine after the son of the family, Kim Ki-woo, who is played by Choi Woo-shik, and I'm sure you're not going to have heard of any of these actors, but it wouldn't be any kind of service to not mention the outstanding performances that they give by name. Anyway, he is gifted with a landscaping stone from a friend who says that it is purported to bring riches. That friend, Min Hyuk, is a university student who is about to go abroad. He recommends Ki-woo to his wealthy employer, who he is serving as an English tutor for their daughter. Ki-woo incorporates his sister, Kim Ji-jong, who is played by Park So-dam, to assist him in fabricating some university papers, and he gets the tutor job. He quickly impresses the very nice but vapid mother, Choi Young-gyo, who is played by Cho Yoi-jong, and I'm sure I'm butchering many of these, and also the new tutor garners the affections of the daughter, Park Dae-hai, who is played by Young Ji-so. I realize, as I said, that none of these actors are familiar to you in any way, but the cast is uniformly brilliant, and I wanted to mention them by name. Of course, in other reviews, you probably will recognize the names, but in this one, you won't. Anyway, Ki-woo is dubbed Kevin by the mother, and his hiring starts a con job by the Kim family. Kevin convinces the mother that her hyper-rambunctious son's drawing show real talent and that she should hire an art tutor for him. Mom gobbles that up, and soon Ki-woo's sister, Ki-jong, is employed and is dubbed Jessica. The nickname's a reflection of the park's love for all things American. Jessica even ups the ante by suggesting that the boys' abstract renderings and an earlier incident reflect a troubled mind. For an additional fee, she adds the role of art therapist to her employment. Ki-jong is the most gifted grifter, who also does want to be a real artist of the Kim clan, and she gets the family driver fired by leaving her panties in the car, which convinces the father that the driver was having sex in his car, although Ki-jong says no advances were made on her. So now Dad, Kim Ki-tak, played by Song Kang-ho, has a gig as a driver, and it isn't long before Mom, Park Chuk-suk, is aboard as a housekeeper after a scheme convinces the gullible Parks that their longtime and beloved housekeeper Guk Mun Kwang, Lee Jung-jun plays her. Boy, I'm having fun with those. They convince her that she has a contagious disease. All four of the Kims have now created separate identities and present themselves as unrelated. So now all of them have excellent employment and life is looking good. At this point, we have viewed a well-executed, funny, observant, and rather standard film. But two plot twists, one easily expected, one not, turn the movie on its head. The Parks head out for a family camping trip, and the Kims take over the house and have a drunken feast in the gorgeous and palatial home. It's raining outside, and a serious mess is being made inside in the living room, so you can pretty much expect that the Kims are going to ditch the trip and come home well ahead of schedule. But just prior to that messing things up, the previous housekeeper shows up at the front door, pleading to get in for a moment to retrieve an item she left behind. Folks, that's where the synopsis ends. What the housekeeper has left in the basement and what goes on subsequently sends us from a slightly dark comedy about class conflicts and social inequality into gripping second and third acts that are part thriller, part horror film, part really dark comedy. The movie is just about everything but a musical, but an opera singer does make an appearance at a birthday party, which is extremely appropriate because the operatic plot overtones are palpable. From the time the drunken party begins and you can feel the foreboding sense that this is all about to go horribly wrong, the tension is suffocating. It's almost never that you can say a movie seems far longer than it was is actually high praise, but in this case, it is true. The film runs about 2 hours, but since you spend the back half of it tensely glued to the screen and with laser attention to what may come next, it seems more like 3, and if it had been, I could have cared less. Bong Joon-ho won the Best Director Academy Award against a star-studded lineup that also included Quentin Tarantino, Sam Mendes, and Martin Scorsese, 3 giants in the craft. I thought afterward that each of those 3 could have well been the director of parts of this film, but for Bong to do the whole damn thing was an amazing feat. There are flourishes of great directors past and present at play here. Heck, as the parodying of the upper class was unfolding early, I thought of Frank Capra and Prenton Sturges from the 30s and 40s. Often in lists of films it will say genre. The only word that could have been used here is all. I think I would have seen this movie. I usually do see all of the nominated films, but winning the Oscar pushed me over the top and got me past any of the subtitle reservations. What a godsend. About the only other 2 films I have ever seen where I had the same feeling walking out of the theater were Saving Private Ryan and Manchester by the Sea. But those were different. Tension was high from the outset. This film suckered you in. You were smiling and laughing just before you had to whistle past the graveyard. I sure as hell know the next time I will see a subtitled film, if not sooner, that's the next time Bong Joon-ho puts one out. On my review pages, I use the Clink scale, and I gave this particular film on a 1 to 10 scale a 9.6. It is the highest grade, I believe, that I have ever given a film. It certainly was a classic, and I would highly urge you to see it and get past the reservations as I did of the subtitles. The other modern film I'm going to suggest right here comes from 2018, and it was called 8th Grade. And I want to start this review with a spoiler alert, and it has nothing to do with the plot of 8th Grade. Ordinarily, when I am thinking about seeing a film, I don't want to inundate myself with information, but I want to know a bit so I don't go waste my time on something I should have known I wouldn't like. That usually manifests itself in a quick glance at Rotten Tomatoes. You get a general sense of the worth of the film, and there are a few go-to critics that I trust. Since on the first page there is just a line or two from many reviews, I end up knowing enough, but not too much. I had heard very good things about 8th Grade, the first feature film directed by then 27-year-old comedian Bo Burnham. This was certainly backed up by the 98 rating on the site. But next to the genre listing, it says comedy. I can't think of too many things further from the truth than calling this outstanding film a comedy. There are a few chuckles, but even those are the result of painstakingly accurate depictions of the miseries of being 13 years old. The film centers, and I mean centers, on Kayla, an 8th grader being raised by a single dad. She is portrayed by Elsie Fisher, and this is no hyperbole, in one of the finest performances I have ever seen on screen. Fisher has to, and does, carry the entire film. She is in virtually every scene, and in most of them is shot in close-up, bringing into harsh light every blemish on her acne-pockmarked face. Kayla is not unattractive, and she is only slightly overweight. She does not really have a bad case of acne and can do a pretty good job of covering it up, which she works quite hard at. But she is uncomfortably growing into her still-forming body and generally walks around with a self-conscious slump. The film begins with her delivering teen advice on her video blog, which she posts without much success on YouTube. These vignettes are inserted throughout the film, and we get to see what Kayla could be at her best. She speaks about creating confidence and putting yourself out there, and she does it with gusto, closing with her tag word, Gucci. She is a textbook example of Dr. Heal Thyself because the day-to-day Kayla can't deliver on her own keen advice. As the movie unfolds, it's the last week of 8th grade, and in an early scene, the Superlatives Awards are given out. Kayla wins Most Quiet. She has a crush on Aiden, Luke Prale, who wins Best Eyes and wants the approval of the snobby Kennedy, played by Catherine Oliveri, who gets the girls' Best Eyes nod. When each receives their award, they walk past Kayla, who earnestly says, "Good job!" They each ignore her, one of dozens of slights that she receives. You just cringe time after time for her. The gripping realism of the film makes you as uncomfortable as Kayla is. You keep hoping, desperately, for good things to happen for her. You get rebuffed along with her. I have 2 daughters, and I will tell any father out there who does that this film will hit you like a ton of bricks. Her dad, played brilliantly by Josh Hamilton, is trying so hard to connect with her, too hard. She, of course, considers him an embarrassing nuisance, which he proves more than once despite all his best intentions. Kayla is extremely shy, but she at least tries to give her own advice, the old 8th grade try. Despite desperately not wanting to, she accepts the lukewarm invitation of Kennedy to attend her birthday pool party. It comes after she has recorded her Put Yourself Out There video. In one of the several excruciatingly spot-on scenes, Kayla gets past a near-anxiety attack as she changes into her bathing suit to emerge into the pool area. She is the only girl wearing a one-piece suit, and she does not look terrible in it, but her own insecurities are illuminated by the lengthy shot of her walking to the pool. No one is acknowledging her. She is shot from the back, with slight back fat oozing over her straps. She shuffles meekly to the edge of the pool and quickly jumps into the refuge of the water. Thankfully, at that time, one of the few light touches in the film is provided by the goofy Gabe, played by Jake Ryan, who swims over, goggles and all, and tries to impress Kayla by such smooth devices as a hold-your-breath contest. Gabe later asks her for a date, another short comic oasis. Hope seems to come when Kayla goes for high school orientation and is befriended by the senior she shadows for the day, the bubbly Olivia, played by Emily Robinson. Olivia is truly nice to Kayla, but even their relationship and Kayla's association with Olivia's friends ends up taking some difficult detours. That includes a tension-racked backseat encounter with a high school boy. Most of the film is reserved for such brilliantly cringeworthy set pieces, none better than late in the film, when Kayla sits in the backyard with her dad, literally watching her middle school dreams going up in smoke. She wants to know if she makes him sad, and the speech he responds with is best supporting actor stuff. Each performer is worth Oscar consideration, although films put out in August, as this one was, are generally long forgotten come Academy Award time. Burnham being 27 means that he is not that far removed from his teen years, and he has concocted a debut that should have him making films for a long time. Comedians often do great dramatic stuff, and he will have a very high bar to shoot for as he works to repeat this uncomfortable gem. In addition to directing Fisher to her quiet tour de force, he captures and takes on the completely overwhelming impact of social media on the middle schoolers. Many conversations are had with a person directly in front of the other, with their eyes on their phones, not the other's face. The discomfort of learning about everything from pubic hair to school shootings at this impressionable age is also palpable. If you are looking for anything close to a feel-good popcorn movie, run far, far away from 8th grade. If you want to see close-to-the-bone emotion, brilliantly portrayed, and can deal with squirming in your seat as you take this 5-day journey in Kayla's world, you will be rewarded. The Clink Scale gave this film 8.9, and again, I highly recommend it with the caveat that I just gave. Coming up next, we're going to look at a couple of classic films that you may want to sample or have sampled or may want to revisit, because I do, and I will, coming up next on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses. And 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days. 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the pure gold oil. And recently, I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyClinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back, and I've got a couple of classic films to talk about right here, and one of them is one that I would guess that most of you haven't seen, but it is an outstanding film with a great cast, and also will provide, as you'll hear, a link to one of, I don't know, this generation, I don't know if you go back 50 years, it's a generation's most beloved films. So here we go. This review is of the film Destry Rides Again, which comes from 1939, and as I will get into, it's one of the great years in motion picture history. I am an unabashed fan of the movie Blazing Saddles. When it came out in 1974, I was a poor teenager about to go to college, and I actually paid real money to see it about 15 times that summer. I'm sure I will review it at some point, but that is almost superfluous. Just about everybody likes the film, at least to a certain degree, if not evangelically like me. The film spoofs, of course, many Hollywood westerns and a whole lot of other things, and I could recite about 50 lines from it off the top of my head right now. But about 20 years after my first viewing of it, I watched Destry Rides Again for the first time, and it almost made me appreciate Blazing Saddles just a little bit less, because Destry is the virtual template for the Mel Brooks film. Made in 1939, it starred Jimmy Stewart and Marlene Dietrich in the story of a crooked western town and the man who cleaned it up. 1939 was among the greatest years in film history, the 1940 Academy Award Best Picture list reflecting that. Among the 10 nominees were classics like Gone with the Wind, The Wizard of Oz, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, also with Jimmy Stewart, Wuthering Heights, Ninotchka. Well, just look up the full list. It's staggering. Ninotchka, quote-unquote, Garbo Laughs, is the rarest of birds, a comedy that was nominated. Not quite making the stunning list, but one of the top-grossing movies of the year was the comic western Destry Rides Again, and it is very easy to see why people flocked to see it. A standard western story turned on its ear and directed by the ever-reliable George Marshall, it is 95 minutes of pure delight. In what was kind of a standard thing for the time, you have to wait a bit to see the star of the movie, in this case, quite a while. The 25-minute opening scene in the saloon in the fictional town of Bottleneck probably goes on a tad bit too long, but it sets the scene and introduces us to all of the characters except Stewart's Tom Destry Jr. The tavern and the town is run by the menacing Kent, played by Brian Dunleavy, who uses a crooked card game to take land from simple town folk who lose. He is aided by his girlfriend and dance hall queen Frenchie, perfectly played by Dietrich. She is, of course, tough and sassy in dealing with the roughnecks and drunks who inhabit the tavern. Kent has the town sheriff killed when he gets too suspicious about the validity of the poker game. The sleazy, crooked mayor, Hiram J. Slade, played by Samuel S. Hines, then appoints the comically drunken Washington Dimsdale, the delightful Charles Winninger, to the post. But Dimsdale swears off the booze and sends off for Destry to become his deputy. Dimsdale had worked under legendary lawman Destry the Senior. But young Destry proves to be an initial disappointment. He emerges from the stagecoach in which he arrives in town, holding a parasol for a lady who rode into town with him, along with her husband. Destry also does not carry a gun, and promptly is ushered into the saloon where he orders a glass of milk. Amidst much ridicule, he is handed a bucket and mop to clean up the town. While he doesn't carry a gun, he can use one, expertly, which he shows quickly when he breaks up a gang of gunmen and shows off his crack shooting, emasculating the bunch and diffusing the situation. But henceforth he returns to less conventional ways of taming the town, often with hysterical, low-key homespun tales. These are several times told while he engages in his hobby of whittling napkin rings. Stewart was brilliant dozens of times, but never better than this. He is funny and cool and engaging and appealing, and of course soon Frenchie is smitten. The chemistry between the two crackles. They had an affair during the shooting, but Destry at first is not reciprocating, and she becomes furious and vows to help bring him down. Marlene Dietrich was at a down period in her career when she took the role, which was quite different from anything that she had done, and she fits the part like a glove. Dietrich might to modern audiences seem quite an anomaly as a major star of the era. With a prominent German accent and an even more prominent speech impediment, it seems that even with her unconventional beauty, it is perhaps surprising she would rise to the heights she did. As the dance hall queen, she has a couple of musical numbers, now classics, including See What the Boys in the Back Room Will Have and You've Got That Look. But she really doesn't have much of a voice, but damn well sure can perform. If you've seen Blazing Saddles, of course, Madeline Kahn's send-off of Frenchie is absolute perfection. The rest of the plot is no surprise. Destry gets suspicious of what happened to the previous sheriff and the land grab card game, and we go from there. But the ride is compelling and extremely hilarious. In addition to Destry's witty homilies, there are plenty of laughs from a brilliant supporting cast. A bit of an aside here, if you are really not familiar with movies of this period, first of all, you should be. Secondly, one of the many things that make the films great are the supporting players. They were overworked, so they became familiar faces, and the great ones enliven numerous films. Some of the best pepper this film, among them Misha Auer, with a hysterical turn as Boris, perhaps the most henpecked man ever, who is constantly having his pants stolen by his wife, played by Una Merkel, always great, and here part of one of the great cinema catfights with Dietrich. There, of course, are many others as well. Heinz Greasy Mayer is pitch perfect. Dunleavy makes hating him easy. Winninger is a hoot. It goes on and on and on. The film looks great, shot by Hal Moore, who had already won an Oscar and would win another. The saloon scenes are fantastic, and Moore was a favorite of Dietrich's, and you can see why she would like the way that she was captured by the brilliant cinematographer. It is very interesting that basically Brooks' Blazing Saddles spoofed the Western genre, but his biggest inspiration was a film that was a brilliant spoof itself. Destry Rides Again can be enjoyed on two levels, on its own, and as a guidepost to one of the great classic comedies of a later generation. You'll have a blast, and the song Little Joe will be stuck in your head for quite a while. The Clink scale opted for an 8.5 for Destry Rides Again. My final little suggestion is as much a guilty pleasure as a tip for you, because I think many people have probably seen the film The Great Escape, but if you haven't, you are truly, truly missing something, and even if you haven't seen the whole film, you've probably seen little bits of it or the motorcycle chase or whatever. But anyway, I like to talk about it. Maybe you'll like to listen to it, and I'm going to do so, starting right now. Back when I wrote the original review that you're hearing right now, my buddy Curtis Siebold retweeted with a note to me, a tweet by History Lovers Club that showed a photo of Steve McQueen on a motorcycle in his part as Virgil Hiltz, the Cooler King in the iconic 1963 film The Great Escape. I never need an excuse to revisit one of my favorite films ever, but that was a nice trigger. Favorite can be different than great, and I think that fits perfectly with this movie. While it is a touch sanitized, it still produces myriad standout performances, is directed and edited, which was its lone Academy Award nomination, with excellence, and produces brilliant tension and excitement. It's part war film, part caper movie, and is stuffed with stars who are at the height of their fame or in the act of solidifying it. It is set in a German prison camp designed to harbor the top Allied escape artists in one place, but having the cleverest and most determined offenders within one camp only inspires the prisoner leaders to try and cook up one giant escape that will hopefully free the men, but also tax the resources of the Germans. It is based on Paul Brickhill's 1950 book of the same name, based on actual events. The escape plot itself and many of the details, like hiding soil from tunneling, creating forged documents, tailoring uniforms, and building the tunnels, are very accurate. They are also one of the many delights of the film. The build-up and intricate and elaborate planning are fascinating. However, many of the character details are fictionalized. Several of the characters are composites, and there were no Americans actually involved in the real escape, and quite a few are in the film. Many of these all-star type of films don't work, but the length of the movie allows characters to be developed well so that we have time to care about them, even though there are many. The group of actors portraying the prisoners is a who's who of top American and British stars of the time. Richard Attenborough portrays Roger Bartlett, Big X, who upon arrival at the supposedly airtight camp immediately begins concocting a wildly ambitious gambit to escape 250 prisoners at once. The other heavy hitters portray characters who provide different skill sets to fuel the vastly complicated enterprise. There are forgers and tailors and tunnel specialists, all of whom need various supplies, many procured by the scrounger, Robert Henley, played with the usual unassuming cool by James Garner. Garner is one of my personal favorites, and as famous as he was, I think he still was underrated. Toss a coin for your favorite cool cat in this movie, because one of cinema's best in that category, Steve McQueen, solidified his status as the archetypal simmering wise-ass as Hiltz, constantly at odds with the enemy, and oftentimes not just them. His constant trips to solitary confinement get him his nickname Cooler King, and his coping mechanism of tossing and catching a baseball bounced off the cell wall is as memorable a plot device as there is in the history of cinema. He always has his glove tossed to him by a fellow inmate as he is marched to the cell. The list of fine and familiar actors is long. James Coburn, Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasance, David McCallum, and a host of other British actors whose names you might not recognize, but whose faces you will. Each small pair or team who provide different tasks gets a different subplot and eventually different escape tale. Bronson's Danny is a burly but now claustrophobic tunnel-digging expert who has been smothered by too many tunnel collapses. But he perseveres with the help of his friend Willie, played by John Layton. Garner Scrounger Henley is roommates with Blythe, Donald Pleasance, the forger whose myopia is worsening rapidly due to close work in bad lighting. Henley eventually insists on accompanying Blythe when the escape organizers threaten to not include him. Hiltz is friends with fellow serial escape artist Ives, the Mole, Angus Lenny, whose repeated attempts and stints in solitary lead him to the precipice of paranoia. Ives is at the center of one of the most seminal scenes in the movie, a 4th of July party conjured up by the Americans, who have been making powerful hooch out of potatoes for the occasion. The first time I saw this movie was as a young boy in September 1967. It was shown in 2 parts on consecutive nights on CBS, and this scene becomes a perfect end to Act 1. The 2-part special produced the number 1 and number 2 rated television events of the season, and they would repeat it for several years. The subplots are numerous but handled perfectly by the respected action director John Sturges, who had directed McQueen, Coburn, and Bronson in another all-star epic of a different kind, The Magnificent Seven, 3 years earlier. The escape itself comes in the final third of the movie and features numerous interwoven stories about the attempted flights to freedom. Most are tension-filled but planned around ordinary circumstances, carefully mapped out, such as a train travel and the like. A couple are improvised, like Sedgwick's, James Coburn, theft of a bicycle, which leads him to a rendezvous with the French resistance, or Henley and Blythe's heist of an airplane. And of course there is the epic motorcycle chase with Hiltz blazing through villages and into the countryside with the Nazis in hot pursuit. McQueen did most of the riding. He even portrayed some of the pursuing Germans, although the most dangerous leap was done by a stuntman. Elmer Bernstein's music was a major part of the film and is especially compelling in the chase, which doesn't come in one scene but is intercut into other plots. Bernstein was only nominated for a paltry 14 Academy Awards in his career. Many of you have no doubt seen this movie at least once, but I am not going down any spoiler road for those who haven't. This movie and its riveting pre-planning and later perilous escapes are so compelling that even though I have easily seen the film 24 times or more, it still is tense and gripping. I am not the biggest fan of what you would call popcorn movies, but I can gobble this one up over and over again. This is not a gritty, realistic look into the horrors of war like classic films like Saving Private Ryan or Platoon, but neither is it anywhere close to idealized. If you haven't had the chance to see it, buy it, rent it, stream it, DVR it when it pops up on your grid, or hell, borrow my copy. If you have to, do the same thing and enjoy it again. Star power, a fascinating plot, enough humor to leaven its darkest times, it pretty much checks every box. A couple of years ago, in England, on the 75th anniversary of the escape, the RAF used the film as a centerpiece for the commemoration of the event, and the film was shown simultaneously at theaters all across the UK. It certainly is a worthy choice. And to wrap it up, the Clink scale this time, coincidentally again, gave this one an 8.9. There's 4 things for you to do over the next couple of weeks or whenever you feel like, or maybe you just enjoyed listening to me talking about movies, and I appreciate that you did because I love talking about them and I can't wait to get back to the theater more and more. As I mentioned, my wife and I did go to see Nomadland in a theater. We want to get back to the theater soon. There's not much product out there, but as we get closer and closer to quote-unquote normalcy, I know that a big part of my world will be heading back to the theater where I, with my wife or without my wife, went to the movies probably 25 to 30 or more times every year, and I can't wait to do it again. And I hope that maybe I helped you perhaps get an idea to enjoy a movie or two that maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't, or maybe you just want to discover. That's Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and we'll talk to you again real soon across the wide variety of templates that we use at DannyClinkscale.com and the Reasonably Irreverent podcast.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Cinematic Visions, an affordable and award-winning solution for professional media production since 2003.